HCP Aftermath, Cali X Boxing 2.0. We are live once again. It is Sunday evening. And D-Style here, HCP Aftermath.
Yeah.
Make sure you're leaving your comments below. This was a fun weekend of boxing. It was a fun, not the big names that people, have been accustomed to the past couple weekends, but good fights, competitive fights, and action fights as well. We had Mick Conlan, that fight with Lopez. We had Lee Wood, Mauricio Lara too, and then we had Rocha doing his thing. So let's start off with Mick Conlan. D-Style, I've said it about him for a while, and now it's evident. I don't think he'll ever be that champion, that elite level fighter, and I think that's evident now. And I don't know where you go with him at this point. And he's a fun fighter. I like watching him fight, but I don't think you can navigate him amongst the top 10 anymore at this point after two brutal KOs. What are you thinking in the aftermath of this fight, and just how the fight played out?
One, I'm thinking that this is an extremely brutal sport. This is a sport where dreams don't come true for a vast majority of fighters. Conlan is a small percentage that even get the shot, and he got it twice. And I do believe that he's going to look back at that Wood fight and be like, man, that was my best shot. I had it, so I didn't. And I'm not going to count him out. We've seen fighters like Jersey Joe Walcott took, I think, 5 cracks at it. So sometimes you keep going, and there is 4 belts in fairness. Raleigh got a damn belt, so you never know. Like if Conlan sticks around, there might be a weak champion, and he's a big enough name that he might get a shot. So I'm not counting him out, right? But in terms of being a legitimate, or at least not one of the weak champions or something like that, that time's gone. Luis Alberto Lopez, a.k.a. Venado Lopez, is a very, very underrated fighter. People have been overlooking him for a while, and it's like fight after fight, they keep saying, he's going to lose. You know what I mean? They picked Warrington against them. Mm-hmm. It's the kid from the Bay Area. I forget his name, but they picked him against him. He was supposed to be an opponent. But he comes out, he stops these guys, and he's underrated hand speed, underrated foot speed, great combinations, which is what you need in those weight classes, quite frankly. Great work rate, and as I've been saying, he's got pretty good punching power. It's you don't just exchange with this guy. Like, he wants you to exchange at times because he's got the power, like the song. You know what I mean? He's got the power. It is what it is. Yeah, he forces the exchange, not like the other guy. We'll talk about him later, right? But he forces exchanges, and I think and I saw a post-fight interview of his where he said, "I knew Conlan was not going to take my power." And he kind of added to it saying, and if he could, I knew I could still outbox him anyway. So he went in there with that confidence of like, I know I'm going to knock him out. And even if I don't, my plan B is I feel I'm a better boxer than him, And if you feel you're both, if you feel you could hit harder and that you could outbox a dude, you're going to go in there with a lot of confidence, bro. And this guy was oozing confidence. I still remember when Warrington told him, you got to come to my fortress and take my belt. Well, he walked right into your fortress. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not much of a fortress. It's just let him walk in. You know what I mean? Like, you let the Trojan horse in, and the Trojan horse walked out with your belt. And then he goes to Ireland and Belfast. And, bro, this fight was never close. Round 1, I swear to you, I said this is going to be more one-sided than I thought. I thought Conlan was going to be outboxing him for at least the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then the pressure was going to mount, and Alberto Lopez was going to take over for a couple more rounds and take him out late.
He had some success. Like, Conlan had some success, though.
I mean,
it was in spots. Yeah.
All I know is that when Conlan hit him, I wasn't, oh my God, he's about to get Lopez. Lopez better watch out. Like, with Conlan, it just felt like the inevitable, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in the words of Thanos, like, I am inevitable. Like, it was inevitable, bro. Like, that's just how I felt. you know. And shout out to Basic Kid on the roundtable. He was asked, and he gave a very short answer. How do you see this fight? He said, this ends with Conlan flat on his back. And it was like prophecy. Because not even I thought he was going to get him with a one punch like that. And you saw the flag fly too. I don't know if you saw it. That flag was up in the air. Lopez was trying to tell the ref while the ref's trying to count. You know? So
they knew right away.
And shout out to Lopez. Look, sometimes we get caught up with the theater of the sport, and we should, and the fights themselves, which we should, right? But there's a lot of things outside of the realm of sport. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but Alberto Lopez did a lot of good work over there. You know, he donated one of his fight gloves to a kid over there that's in the waiting list for a heart transplant. You know, so I think that's a good thing. You know, so he broke. I read an article. I wish I remembered to give him credit for it, but the article said something like he might have broken a lot of Irish hearts, but he made one Irish kid's day, right? So he did some good over there. He broke a lot of hearts, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's trying to fix one.
This has been a tough run for Ireland the past 2 weekends.
Oh, man.
3 of their biggest fighters lost, and 2 of them in emphatic fashion. 2 of them lost by looking up at the ceiling after they got knocked out. Here's the thing, man, is I like Conlan. The thing that I like about Conlan was he loses to Lee Wood in, just emphatic fashion, him being carried out of the arena in a stretcher, and we don't know if we're going to see him again. He goes back in there with the puncher and Mariaga and stays busy. He's staying busy until he earns his shot again. He's given this shot. He's given it at home because he is a draw. He's gotten that. And he once again shows that his big deficiency, D-Style, is he likes to fight. And when a guy who can't punch likes to fight, it's a recipe for disaster. Is he can box. He's a good boxer. He's got skill, but he has these mental lapses, and then he's getting into trades, and he's getting into trades with guys he shouldn't be getting into trades with, right? Lee Wood, and now Lopez. And Lopez, a big puncher, and Lopez saw that punch coming from a mile away. He saw that punch months ago that he was going to land that punch. 100%. And at the end of the day, what we have with Conlan is we have a guy who can beat punchers. He beat Mariaga. But what is Mariaga? Mariaga is an older puncher he's a Nakathelia type puncher. He can't set up his punches, right?
He's heavy-handed, yeah.
He's heavy-handed. He has to be in perfect position, and Conlan can outbox those guys. But the top 10 is littered with guys who can punch and can set up those punches at 126. It's a Shark Tank. And Conlan is a guy who he's not strong enough to hold these guys off. And what you're going to see with Conlan is they go back to the drawing board and face him against guys outside the top 15, 20 domestic level fighters, or guys from abroad who can punch but can't set it up, and say, hey, he just beat a puncher again. He beat another guy like Mariaga. He deserves another title shot, and rinse and repeat. Every time he steps up, it's going to be this same prophecy of him looking up at the ceiling. As Bay said, it's going to be him looking up at the ceiling because he just can't trade with guys, elite level guys with solid punching. It's going to take the perfect opposition for him to pick off a legitimate title. It's going to take a vacant belt against somebody who was moved up the ranking. It's going to take something like that for him to get a legitimate title. I just don't. I look at the rankings up and down. D-Style, Lara, Ray Vargas. He already lost to Lopez. He lost to Lee Wood, Figueroa, Robice Ramirez, Magsayo. Who's the guy? Who's the guy that he can beat there?
Yeah.
Warrington, he can't beat anybody else.
And I'm telling you, man, especially with Alberto, a guy like that, who the last time he got in there with a guy that liked to fight and doesn't have a very big knockout ratio, it was Gabriel Flores, right? From the Bay Area, like he likes to fight. Yeah, there's just some dudes out there that you shouldn't slug it out with. It's not the right time.
Flores versus Conlan, that makes sense, right? They're both the same guy. They're both once they get into a battle, like there's just not many ways you can go with these guys at this point.
Yeah, it's. There's not. I mean, if anything, those two should probably be paired up and have a fight.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, just put those two in a fight, crossroads fight. They could do it, but look, what I will say about Conlan is not all is lost. He should take a page out of like Paulie Malignaggi's book, like just box, stay on the move. You're not the biggest puncher in the world, and you just like he needs to like you need to know your weaknesses. That the best fighters know their weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
The best fighters know where they're weak at, and they mask those weaknesses. And so to me, Conlan, I'm not saying he'll be a world champion, but maybe he goes a distance and maybe loses the majority of rounds if he fights a smarter fight, and just going at it with him.
But style. He likes to fight.
but hey, you know what though? I will say this: if he keeps fighting, there's room for. One of the reasons I don't want to go off track too much, but one of the reasons I miss Friday Night Fights, Boxing After Dark, there's still Showbox, but like Showbox isn't even used the same anymore. They're using Showbox for the unknown fighters, not the lower level fighters, if that makes sense. Like they're using it differently now. Where before a lot of lower level fighters were more well known, right? We just didn't go as far down as social media fighters. You know what I mean? Like we would just go down from A level to C level. You know what I mean? But like this is a guy that I could see that we still had a Friday Night Fights. He could be headlining Friday Night Fights and having like fight of the year candidates on those cards. You know what I mean? HBO After Dark have a fight with like a Gabriel Flores. Like him and Gabriel Flores can have like a Gotti Ward type fight. It could be a fight of the year candidate for all we know. They match him up. But we need those level shows. Like those shows are needed.
Yep.
Everything now, almost everything is that they want to package everything as world championship boxing, and not everything could be world elite level boxing. Not everything is. There's only so many fighters that are elite.
Yep.
But I just wanted to make that quick point that in this climate, I don't know where the room for Conlan is. You know what I mean? Other than an undercard of some event, but it is what it is.
Yep. Make sure you're getting your likes up in chat. Different time for us this week, so make sure you're getting those likes out for people. But I'm surprised by the poll, to be honest, because although Conlan I'm surprised by it. He was the slight betting favorite. I am surprised by that. I think that was easy money. Lopez knocks him out. I still feel like it was more surprising. Like if you would have told people before, like what would be the more surprising outcome? Would it be Conlan getting knocked out by Lopez or Wood beating Lara by winning 10, 11 rounds on the scorecards? Which one would be more shocking? It would be Wood, in my opinion. That's why I would vote Wood. I think it's a more impressive what he did. Now, as far as that fight,
disagree.
And why? Why would you disagree with that?
Because the opponent he had in front of him looked uninspired. He looked flat. He looked lethargic. What I'm
saying would you have guessed that going in though?
No, not guessing going in, but if we're asking who had the better, like the poll says, most impressive fighter this weekend. So we're going to go by what we saw.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Lopez had a emphatic performance. Not even Wood did that to Conlan. Right. Quite frankly.
True.
If anything, Wood was losing to Conlan.
Yeah, it was close on the scorecards going into the 12th. What I was impressed with Wood was, and look, there's no question, something was off with Lara. We all saw that, right? I mean, people in the chat, you saw that, right? Something was off with Lara, and a lot was made into the weight going into the fight. And here's what I'll say with that, because I see people debating that in the chat. And I'm still hearing separate things from people that they weren't going to allow him to try to make 126. Then there were people saying, no, he was going to be allowed to get to 126 and he didn't want to. Conflicting things, right? But my thing with that is it's a stupid rule if that is the rule. In today's modern boxing is, look, guys are dehydrating themselves and rehydrating. I don't know why the rule is that to where you're not going to allow a guy to cut to 126 on fight week. But everybody knew the rules coming in, D-Style. I'm sure Lara's team, they already
he's fought in England before, so he knows
he's fought in England 4 out of his last 6 fights. He had to have known the rules coming in. And so he knew. And on top of that, once I told Nando this on Twitter, once guys agree, once they agree behind the scenes, it's done with me. I don't care what happens at that point. I don't care what the rumors are, what happened between the two. Once they agreed to step aside money or whatever they agreed to, the fight's on. Let's get it on. No excuses. Let's get it on. I don't want to hear that, I lost to him because he was heavy. I don't want to hear that I lost because I was weight drained. We all agreed. We got the fight. The fight's the fight. But Lara was clearly not there. But at the same time, you got to give Lee Wood his credit in that he made the big adjustment going in. And we talked about this on the podcast last week, is the body punching. He found something in the 5th round of that first fight with the body punching and stopping Lara coming forward with that. Lara still lands the big punch in the trade, but the body punching was going to be the equalizer there and slowing Lara down. And he equalized it with the safest body punch. And the safest body punch is the left jab to the body. You're not going to land those deflating kidney punches, but you're going to land to the solar plex. You're going to stop him. You're going to knock the wind out of him. And he slowed Lara down. Whatever was there of Lara going into the fight, he slowed him down. And, I was talking to, shout out to Surgical Boxing. We were talking on the phone about this yesterday after the fight was, he's in gyms in LA, and what he's noticed about a lot of Mexican pressure fighters is they like to get in rhythm. They're pacing, the pacing of a fight, pressure fighting. Once they get into a rhythm, get into a pace, look out because they're downhill at that point. If you can affect that rhythm, that pace, then it's hard for them to get going. And it was hard for Lara to get going in this fight because it just felt like Lee Wood was messing up the pace of Lara throughout the fight. Is that the fight you saw?
I'm gonna be honest. Look, Wood's a good boxer, so I don't want to take anything away from him. Okay, he was winning the first fight with his boxing, right before he got caught. Right?
Yeah.
I think it was set up, but he gets full credit. I get that, but I still need to analyze and assess it for what it is. You know what I mean? I can't. Lara doesn't get to make excuses. He agreed to it. All that's 100%. But me analyzing a fight, I need to call it for what it is, right?
Right.
And he didn't look the same. Like something looked off. It looked off early.
Clearly.
Now, granted, a lot of things worked against him that is not Wood's fault. Like when he took him in deep waters, well, he's only gone 10 rounds one time in his career. So that works to the benefit of Wood, right? It's not Wood's fault that Lara's never gone the full distance. You know what I mean? Lara did land a couple shots sometimes. Wood took them, so credit to Wood. You know what I mean? But there just wasn't a consistent body attack. There wasn't he wasn't forcing exchanges. He wasn't taking over the real estate in the middle of the ring. He wasn't cutting off the ring. He was like a lot of the things that he was doing in the first fight was not happening in this fight. Right. Now, one might say, well, Wood did his homework. He give him credit for doing his homework and for, preparing for that. I think there's
a reason they wanted this rematch right away. And I don't think it was.
What I'm saying is, well, look, I am sure Wood made preparations so the same doesn't happen again. So that's just on top of everything. But it wasn't the same version of Lara. Because Lara didn't look good at any point of this fight. Not in the beginning of the fight. Like you could explain the middle of the fight and the end of the fight. Right? The end of the third quarter of the fight, the final third of the fight, you could say maybe it's experience. Wood has the advantage there. Okay, fine. But what happened early? It's not the fact that Wood was winning the rounds. He was winning the rounds in the first fight. Okay, it's where was that relentless pressure that we saw in the other fights with Warrington? Okay, against Wood the first fight. Where was it? It was missing. It wasn't there. Right? And and this is no offense to Wood. Even I believe it was Frost doing commentary. Even he couldn't help but say it. Like he was like, "I don't want to take anything away from Wood." He kept prefacing it with that.
Mm-hmm.
But Lara looks abysmal right now. Like he kept saying it.
It was clear.
Like, something looked off. You know. Now that, again, it's not Wood's fault.
I wonder if he had a terrible training camp. I mean, it's a quick get back. It's a quick 3-month get back, right? And you go right back over there. So perhaps when you see a guy not get close to 126, who's fighting at 126, you know, maybe he thought he was going to come in there and steamroll. I don't know. I'm just throwing this stuff out there, and I don't want to offer excuses for Lara because he went in, he agreed to everything, and we got to give Lee Wood full credit. But also, you know, we have to break down what we saw too. And what we saw was a Lara that wasn't the Lara that we saw in, what was it, February? That's not the same guy we saw. Clearly, it's not the same guy we saw. And we can't just attribute that to, oh, Wood made adjustments and went to the body.
I think obviously that's going to be part of it, right?
It's part of it. It is.
Like, but, you know, I'm just saying, like maybe, let me put it this way. If it's the same Lara from the first fight, I'm not arguing, oh, Lara would have won, right? Maybe Wood wins anyway. Mm-hmm. But maybe Lara looks more respectable. Like he looks decent, at least in the first half of the fight.
Yeah.
You know, like something just looked off. And it's not just Lara, Alex, a former multi-time world champion who's a big fan of Wood, had to preface it over and over again. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Wood. He kept saying it, bro, over and over again. But Lara, I just don't know. He just doesn't look good. This is a terrible performance by a world champion. He just kept saying it.
All of that's true, but Lee Wood dominated him. And I want to give Lee Wood his flowers more than focus on Lara because, once again, you got to show up. And when you're 9 years younger than Lee Wood and you look like the older fighter, Lee Wood's talking about, I want 2 or 3 more fights and then I'm out. Lara's in his prime right now. He's in his prime. He should have been. Oh,
it's inexcusable what happened. I'm just so flabbergasted that it happened that I got to point out. Look, the fight starts when you sign on the dotted line. You agree to the fight.
Yep.
The fight's on, right? Like Lee Wood went to training camp. He got up in the morning. He did the road work. He put in the work, right? He cut his weight. Okay, he needs to dehydrate himself as well. He did all those things. And like I said, he's the older fighter. He was willing to do all those things, apparently more than Lara did, right?
Yep.
So in no way, shape, or form is this taking away from Wood. That's why, just like Frost, I need to preface this. I'm not taking anything away from Wood because none of it is Wood's fault. Wood did what he's supposed to do. You're supposed to take advantage of that. If he didn't take advantage of that, I would be on here saying, you see how lethargic and like this guy looked, and Wood didn't take advantage of that? Like, that's what I would be saying. So he did what he's supposed to do, Wood. So, hey, he got the W, and I'll take it a step further, Alex. There is no trilogy until the following happens. One, Lara needs to make weight at this weight at least twice, and he needs to work his way back up. He needs to be 2 dudes before he gets back to this fight. Because 2 things happen. One, he put on an abysmal performance. That's number 1. Second, you didn't make weight. All right? So regardless of the reason, you didn't make weight at some point, whether it was the day of the day or the weigh-in before that, whatever it was, you didn't make weight and they have rules set in place, and you know the rules. I don't want to hear, because England has different rules. And dude, you fought in England multiple times already, so you know the rules, right?
He's basically a UK fighter at this point. I mean, he fights over there so much.
Basically, you have a residency in the UK, right? People are calling you the king of the UK, right? Well, you're not the king anymore, right? And now, what is a champion? I just want to say one thing. He didn't say the name. But I know, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe Wood was talking about Warrington when he told Eddie, there's only one fight that could top this. Make it happen, Eddie. Warrington doesn't deserve that shot either. I'm sorry. I would rather, this is the boxing fan of me talking, not the businessman, and not the, I'm talking for my interests. and I believe I speak for most boxing fans, Wood Lopez is the fight to make.
Yeah.
That's a fight to make, in my opinion. Lopez beat Warrington, all right? Lopez just destroyed the guy that you won life and death with. He has a title. You have a title. You have 2 more fights? Brother, go for unification.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I say. And Lopez will go to your backyard. It's not like he won't do it.
Yep. I completely agree. First of all, let me give Lee Wood his flowers because I like overachieving fighters. Limited but overachieving fighters. I mean, that's my wheelhouse. It's he's a domestic level fighter, and then he upsets Kanzu, and you say, oh, okay. And then Mick Conlan's a 50-50 fight, and then he does what he does to Mick Conlan, and it's like, okay, that's 2 straight upsets. And then, and he was a slight betting underdog there, so 2 straight upsets. And then you say, people are saying he'll never fight Mauricio Lara. He'll never, and he fights him. Yeah. And then he gets stopped. He's doing well before, but he gets stopped. And then people are saying, well, it's definitive stoppage. We won't see that again. And then what happens? They agree to fight him 3 months later. And then he definitively avenges a stoppage loss.
Yeah.
This is a fighter. I know there are limitations. We can talk about the limitations. We could talk about deficiencies all we want, but I appreciate dudes who get in there and do it, and fighters. And now we're talking about a guy who's going to go for unifications at 34 years old, a guy we never would have thought a year and a half, 2 years ago would be in this position.
This division has a lot of good fighters in it, man. Like nothing great, at least not yet, right? But there are a bunch of good fighters in it. They all fight each other. A great fighter could emerge out of it, right? Because steel sharpens steel. We got Robesi Ramirez. We have Ray Vargas. I believe Ray Vargas, Brandon Figueroa is probably going to be done by the PBC because I think, yeah, because Brandon's the interim champion, so I think that's where they're going at. But then you have Lopez and Lee Wood. I mean,
so here's what I want to see.
A top-ranking match could work together to make that fight happen.
Yeah, here's what I want to see. I agree with you. I want to see the belt blueprint used here. I want to see, you should always be going for a champion, right? Use the belts, use the 4-belt system. Let's get some unification fights. That should take precedent over everything. So it's a good fight too. Give us Lee Wood versus Lopez. Lopez in a New York second will fly over to the UK to fight. We know that. All right. And this is a beautiful thing about this division too, is Robesi Ramirez is about to go to Japan in July, I believe, for a mandatory. Guys are willing to go. They're willing to go where the fights are. It resembles a sport. They're going to go where the fights belong, and they're going to fight the fights. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. So give us Wood versus Lopez. All right. Give us the losers bracket. Give us Lara versus, they have bad blood, right? Give us Lara versus Warrington.
Give it to us, yeah.
Give us that fight. All right. And then we could get Ray Vargas versus Brandon Figueroa.
Get out of the way, yeah.
Mag Sayo is always there if you need a puncher to test yourself against. I mean, there are fights here to be made, and Robesi Ramirez is right there, and I think we both are high on him, right? He's fighting in July in Japan. He's going to work his way up. So this division is just beautiful, and it's full of fights that could be made, and I hope the unification fight is next for Lee Wood. If it's Warrington, I'm not going to be upset about that. I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to be upset about that, but I would much rather.
I'm not going to say look, here's the problem. The sport of boxing needs to stop rewarding the losers, bro.
Yeah.
Like what type of a joke is the sport if guys coming off losses or getting title shots? Like, just try to explain this to any sports fan, bro. All right? Just try, give it a shot. They won't understand. Like if you tell them, yeah, Raleigh was he was fighting for the JV belt and 135 got knocked out, and then he went up and he got to fight for one of the legitimate belts at 140.
Yeah. And
they put him in there with an old dude. He was getting his ass whooped, and then they stop it prematurely. And now another loser in Ryan Garcia, right, loses at 135 for the JV belt. And he's going to fight for the belt. And you have boxing fans clamoring for it, saying, yeah, that's what we want to see. Yes, make that world title fight, Raleigh versus Ryan. Why? Because it's popular, because it's going to sell, because it's a hit. Oh, it's going to do a lot of pay-per-views. That's why you want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck merit. Like merit don't mean nothing, right? But like, try to explain that to anybody. Oh, Warrington, he just lost to Lopez. Oh, he's going to get another shot because he's popular in Leeds. So he's going to get another shot. Dude can't stop getting shots, bro. Keeps getting his ass kicked, right? Got destroyed by Mauricio Lara. You know, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, and I see some people are finally getting some alerts, so that's good news. Yeah, but just to wrap it up, good. I'm impressed with 126. Love that division, deep division full of good fighters, and I'm interested to see. That's why we need to keep seeing these fights. Is I'm interested to see who's going to come out on top of this, because I think a guy is going to clearly come out on top of this. Yeah. At what point did we thought it was going to be Mauricio Lara? It's not that guy. He's not that guy. So, and perhaps he could come back. We don't know.
Maybe.
Perhaps he needs to move to 130. Perhaps he's having weight issues. Who knows? But Robeisy Ramirez is there. We're high on him. But we have to give credit to Lee Wood. And he's a guy who's there, and he's an overachiever, and he did it again Saturday night. We've said this about him. He's been an overachiever. We never thought he would be in this position, but here he is. All right, so great weekend of boxing as far as 126. And Mick Conlan, I think, to wrap that up, is they need to be very careful about where they go with him going forward, because now we're in that, what we were talking about with Gabe Flores, right? We're in that severe fighter safety. Like, we really need to be careful with what happens with this guy going forward, because if he continues to have knockout, these are brutal knockouts he's getting knocked out with. These are brutal 100%. Knockouts. So we need to be careful at this point.
He's getting lit up. Okay. It's the reality of the situation. Look, all I know is that we need an avenue for different tiers of fighters, because there is, and good matchups make for great fights. So like, they're there, you know what I mean? So,
yep. And Ray Ford's there as well. And I think eventually, he gets a shot. And he said, if I don't get a shot, I'll move to 130. He's a talent as well. So we'll see how this plays out there. And I just love the division. And it's full of guys who are willing to fight the fights. Now, 147, Alexis Rocha over the weekend. He won his fight against Anthony Young. And Anthony Young is Anthony Young, right? But here is the important thing with Alexis Rocha is action fighter. And you continue to put him where he belongs, where the live gate is going to be good. You can build him regionally out. And they're doing all the right things with Alexis Rocha right now, right? They're doing all the right things. Is you have to keep him busy. Second fight this calendar year. Fought 3 times last year. I think 3 times the year before that, 2 or 3 times the year before that. The main thing with a guy like Alexis Rocha is you have to keep him busy. Is he's now 7-fight win streak since the loss to Rashidi Ellis, I believe. So they're keeping him hyperactive, getting that fight in the rearview mirror, and trying to build something with him.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
The Blair Cobbs fight was like his come out party, kind of. Because I don't know if they actually thought Blair Cobbs going to work him or some shit, but like, apparently they put him in there thinking Blair Cobbs would do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought, I mean, look, they're moving on very nicely, like they are. But he is who he is, though. Like, shout out to Oscar De La Hoya, who tweeted out, "Oh, it's great that we're finally going to see Crawford versus Spence. Great fight. The winner gets Rocha, and the winner after that gets Virgil Ortiz." Like, love Rocha, but like, Spence Crawford is not an eliminator to get the Rocha fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, you know what I mean? It's that's not the fight they're fighting for. You know what I mean?
I understand why Oscar's doing that, though. I understand why he's doing that.
Yeah, sometimes if it don't make sense, bro, is it even worth saying that?
He's the promoter, and look, he's positioning Alexis Rocha for what? A vacant belt. a vacant shot. Because what's going to happen now, D-Style, is we're finally going to get movement at welterweight. Is you finally have the top two guys fighting each other. And what have they said? We're going to fight each other. There's going to be a rematch. And after that, we're moving up to 154. Look at this.
The final is against Virgil, bro. Assuming he beats Stanionis, and I'm assuming Stanionis will be in the final, right? This is according to Oscar De La Hoya. This is Rocha, I guess, got a bye week, or maybe this was the playoff spot, right? The fight last night, and then Crawford Spence, the winner of that fight, fights for the right to fight Rocha.
Yeah, Rocha versus Anthony Young was the other semifinal. Is what our quarterfinal is what we have, and Virgil's going to sit there in the championship and wait. But look, in all seriousness, Oscar's being a promoter to his fighter here. Is what he's saying is he's positioning his fighter for the vacant belt. He's making sure he's going to be number one in line for when these belts go in a vacuum. And they will go in a vacuum. And we know Boots is waiting around, right? Boots is going to fight whoever Boots wants to fight until those vacant belts. That's his plan. Whatever they're telling you about Boots wanting the fights and Boots wanting to fight Bud, and, Bud kind of exposed Boots with that in his interview that's coming out tonight, I believe, is he's waiting for his shot at the vacant belt. Alexis Rocha is going to be there. Alexis Rocha is not only getting step-aside money from Bud Crawford, I believe. He's going to get step-aside money from him in a rematch, I believe. And at the same time, he's going to stay busy. And they're positioning him for the vacant belt that's going to come for him to get a legit title. And I'm assuming the fight that's going to be that Golden Boy wants in the future is Virgil Ortiz versus Rocha, which, by the way, will be a barn burner. That'd be a beautiful fight. But let's keep it real on Rocha. He's one of these fighters we talk about, William Zepeda. And Golden Boy has guys like this. It's a great luxury to have a guy that it doesn't matter if they lose. He lost to Rashidi Ellis 3 years ago. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Keep him busy. Action fighters, you want to fight.
Yeah, like what happened to Rashidi Ellis lately.
Right. That's what I'm saying is just keep him in people's faces and people are going to continue to show up whether he wins or loses. We can talk about the limitations of Rocha. Who cares? Who cares? And Rocha could end up being a guy that gives us a legitimate title, that gives us a unification fight, that ends up overachieving like a guy we were talking about earlier, Lee Wood. He can end up giving us that, but we don't need it. No, we don't need to see a pound for pound talent. We don't need to see a guy who's going to be top 5 welterweight. He could end up getting there, but all we need to see from him is action. Action. When I watch Alexis Rocha on TV, I don't have a scorecard and a pin ready to score the fight. I'm not there to break down his deficiencies. You know what I'm doing? I'm popping open a Corona, a Dos Equis, and it's party time. It's party time. I'm ready to see.
What might end up happening if you look at it. So Virgil's fighting Stanionis for the Reggie belt, the JV belt, right? So the winner of that fight is going to be in position, right? Even though technically Virgil's already, but he's been number 1 in like 2 or 3 of the sanctioned bodies for a while. But it was 3 until they removed him from the WBC. But that's a different story because of Thurman. But so WBA, you're going to see, I believe Virgil's going to win that fight. It's not a gimme, but I believe he will win that fight. He's going to be positioned for the WBA, okay? Rocha's positioned for the WBO, right? And he's getting step-aside money from Crawford.
Uh-huh.
And then Boots has already positioned himself for the IBF.
Right.
Assuming these guys move up, Spence, Crawford, eventually after they fight, who's in position for the WBC? Like, I think Thurman will be in position for the WBC, whether people like it or not. Yep. Okay. And so we might have a situation, right? If I look at next year, maybe a year and a half, where Thurman, Rocha, Boots, and Virgil are all world champions.
Yeah.
Right. And the mix of all those fights are actually all good. That's a good mix of those fights. And then Aldis could always come back in the picture. They could maybe put him in the Rocha again, or maybe he'll challenge Thurman, or like the other guys can start getting like if Josh Taylor moves up, he can get in the mix. But everyone is positioning themselves right now because they kind of know what's going to happen when these two finish their two fights.
They've already signaled it. They said we're moving to 154 after the rematch. It's done, and all these belts are going to become vacant. They're all going up for grabs, and everybody is playing the positioning game. Despite what a Boots Ennis is telling you about, I want the fights. They're all positioning themselves for when these belts become vacant. Errol and Bud are not fighting those guys. They're moving to 154, and then we're going to have a new division. Okay. That's that recycling process we talk about, right? And that's about to happen, and they're all preparing for it. But once again, with Rocha is there are so many fights you can make for this guy because he's an action fighter. And I'll say this, D-Style, is all these people who say Arturo Gatti shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because he was a limited fighter. Here's how I judge the greatness of Arturo Gatti is how many Arturo Gattis have come around since Arturo Gatti? Not many, right? And what Arturo Gatti, what he gave you was he was the human highlight film, right? He gave you many comeback victories. He gave you many fight of the years. He gave you even more fight of the year candidates. And then he occasionally stepped up, and you knew he was going to lose, but at least he stepped up for you to see, right? He wanted to see. And we're not regenerate. We're not refreshing. We're not getting more Arturo Gattis. And the reason we're not doing that is they're not letting action fighters be action fighters. This current model we have is not letting action fighters. They're not allowing these guys to fight.
They have a one-dimensional model. They have a cookie cutter model right now.
Right.
The model that they're following at the moment, and you could tell, bro, even the action fighters are trying to do this model. Protect the O, keep them undefeated as long as possible, or with limited losses as long as possible. Right. And that's the road. Like that's how they're doing now. I agree with like what Roberto Diaz said and others have said, like we're slowly getting away from that, like little by little, but it's gonna take time. It's not gonna happen overnight. But we need different tier system in boxing. In other countries they do it, bro. Like in the UK, they have their world-class fighters or domestic fighters. They have regional fighters. And look, we were just talking about one of them. Wood. Like he was just known as a regional fighter for a while. You know what I mean?
He broke out.
Yeah. So here in the States, though, like we don't do that. It's like either you're elite or you're bust. And that's it. And it doesn't make sense. Like that makes no sense.
This circuit that we had for a while has gone away.
Yeah.
The ESPN Friday Night Fights type fights, the HBO Boxing After Dark type fights, the real show box, not the show box we have now, but the real show box. Those fights have gone away. We don't know where to catch these fighters anymore. And the part-time model has not allowed action fighters to be action fighters.
No, but now they're trying to package guys to us now falsely.
Yeah. Yep.
A great example of this is Rolly Romero. Like Rolly Romero will be no more than a Friday Night Fights fighter.
Yeah.
And this was 10 years ago. Like, period. Mm-hmm. That dude will not be anywhere near World Championship boxing. Yep. Maybe on the undercard, right? But there's no way that he would be. I know this. I've been watching boxing. I can tell you guys this for sure. Rolly Romero might be the worst world champion I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot. Like he might be the worst world champion, the most undeserving person with a belt I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Even in this era with all these belts, like even then.
You're not exaggerating.
Like that's how bad he is. But they're trying to package him as this like puncher, like this modern day Ricardo Mayorga. They're forcing it, bro. Like they're trying to force this shit. They're forcing the old one. Action fighters doesn't even make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they think that if these guys lose, that nobody's gonna watch them anymore. Like it doesn't make any sense. Put them in action fights. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, that's an insult to Paulie, bro. Little bit. I'm sorry. Paulie's do not insult Paulie. He's the worst, bro. He's bad. He's terrible. No one's coming. I don't want to hear any bad champion ever is not as bad as Rolly. He's bad, bro. Paulie beat Juan Diaz. He was a decent fighter. He was the weak of the bunch at welterweight when Broner moved up. We all know that. I don't think like that's so.
Paulie was a good fight. Like he legitimately
it's a false equivalency, bro.
Yeah,
the false equivalence is so bad it pissed me off. Raleigh's bad, bro. People need to acknowledge him as the worst. Like he's bad he's the worst by a mile. By a mile. Like it's not even close.
Shout out to Haplo, Dista mi amigo y Calix, uno de los originales, pero Frach es basura. That right there.
Está mi amigo y Calix, uno de los originales, pero Frach es basura. He's trash.
He's not. No. I'll say it in my Danny Garcia dialect. No. He is not. No.
You know what? I can't believe I'm going to defend the LDBC here, but I really doubt the LDBC is saying that Raleigh is this modern day Julian Jackson. I doubt it. Penny, I doubt it. Like, I don't believe you. Like guy. It's a good joke, but no, I don't think they're saying that. I just don't believe it. Raleigh's bad. He's terrible, bro.
Shout out to our guy, Haplo. But this is ridiculous right here. Love Haplo, but this is just ridiculous. This is sacrilege. Sacrilege.
If somebody gave me a clip of a LDBC content creator comparing Raleigh to Julian Jackson, I need to see it. Like, because I don't believe it.
That would be beautiful. Look, to wrap it up on Rocha, there's a vacuum for action fights, and there's a vacuum for action fighters. And whoever gives that to us, I'm telling you, you're gonna win. You're gonna win because we don't care if the Rochas, the Williams Bay Golden Boys sitting on a beautiful opportunity if they can get these fights and just keep these guys active every 4 months. Fight these guys quarterly, or almost close to quarterly. Is just keep them in people's faces, and people are going to get to know. People don't even remember that he lost to Rashidi Ellis. People don't care, and that's what I'm saying. That's exactly my point.
Sometimes it becomes like Russian roulette. Like these action fighters pull off like an unexpected upset. Sometimes
this is what I'm saying. These style is all when we watch Rocha, it's like, oh, let's be entertained. Let's do this. Let's have fun. And then we'll watch them against other good action fighters, and we have a great night. But then you step him up, right? And then he may pull a Lee Wood and win the fight. He may win the fight. And you're like, oh, we got even more than we expected. Now, not only do we have an action fighter, we have an action fighter who can compete on the elite level. Sometimes you swerve into that accidentally. But all I'm saying is you just have to keep this guy active. That's it. He wants to fight. Do you think these guys want to be sparring a million rounds, or would they rather fight real fights? What do you think?
You know what? And like, I don't know, man. Like, boxing fans are also part of the problem. And let me tell you what it is, bro. Okay, guys go out there, they give us great fights, and then, I mean, leave it to the boxing, like the smug, snarky boxing fans. Like,
yeah,
I don't like that stuff. It's unskilled. Well, you're going to end up like Meldrick Taylor. Like, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's both fighters doing it to each other or one fighter doing it to the other, you're watching a sport where damage is being inflicted on somebody else. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if a guy fights smart and just beats the shit out of one dude, right? Don't virtual signal to me, because you're not against brain damage just because one dude is inflicting it one-sidedly on one dude.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no correlation at all. There's no correlation with when you have a brawler's mentality or you have a style that's very aggressive, that you end up with brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
Whitaker is one of the best offensive fighters of all time. One of my favorite fighters of all time. Was slurring his words and stuttering his words from the punches he took in the sport. There's no correlation, ladies and gentlemen. None. So if two guys go out there and they give us a great fight, because they both have aggressive styles and they don't want to be running around the ring, okay? Just trying to play fencing, right? Just give them their flowers. Just sit down and enjoy the fight. That's all you got to do.
Why can't we just want good action fights? Where did the market go for just good action fights?
The market didn't go anywhere, Alex. That's all they're trying to put on. Every PBC undercard, they're trying to give us good action fights because they know people change the channel, okay, whenever it's a boring fight. And we have boxing fans that's not a thing. Oh, I love boring fights. I like it when guys just run around the ring and play, tag all night for 12 rounds. I've always, people don't even know what, for some reason, we've redefined fighting and what it is. It's not rock'em sock'em. It's not just trade away. That's not what it is, right? Haney Loma's a good example of what fighting is, that they were fighting.
Yeah.
Yes, Haney got hit because he was fighting. Loma got hit because he was fighting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you fight. But you saw skill, you saw will, you saw all those things all together. Okay, Hagler versus Leonard, they both got hit. But somehow we've romanticized this notion of dudes, and I know I've gone off track, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We've romanticized this notion that running around the ring playing tag is somehow the superior way to fight. Let me ask you this. If you're holding hands with your girl and you're walking in the parking lot of Walmart and a dude slaps your girl's ass, right in front of you, and then you're like, oh shit, babe, I'm gonna defend your honor, babe. You roll up your sleeves, you mean mug the dude. You know what I mean? You're like, what, motherfucker? Whoa, you just fucking slapped my girl's ass. I'm gonna make you pay. And then the guy's like, okay, let's go. And then he wants to fight with you, and you're just staying away from him. And then you throw a jab, and you stay away. You're just moving around the parking lot. I'm defending your honor, babe. And then you start running all over, is she going to feel and a dude just says, fuck, you don't even want to fight. Fuck this dude. He just leaves. I'm going to quit, babe. You see how I'm defending your honor? Somehow we make that fighting. Somehow people think that's fighting. It's not. That's not fighting. That's avoiding engagement. That's what that is. Call it what it is. It's not defense. It's avoiding engagement. That's what it is. Ain't no dude gonna fight like that and get pussy that night. It ain't gonna happen. Okay? Period. It's never happened in life. Babe, I love the way you were avoiding the fight with him. And we'll just throw a quick slap and get away from him as quickly as possible. And then until he got so annoyed with you and just left. I love the way you defended my honor. Fuck that shit. And somehow we make that a thing. Somehow that's a thing that boxing fans is just praise to the moon. And I think it's a shit. No, it's not. Reward the dudes that engage in action and engage in fighting, not the ones that are fighting negative, not the ones that are avoiding engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Pernell Whitaker didn't avoid engagement.
Nope.
Floyd Mayweather got accused of avoiding engagement, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd Mayweather would step to dudes.
Yep.
All right? So let's reward the guys that cause damage, the guys that want to fight. So if two guys are action fighters and they're losing fights, but they're bringing the fight to you, but all you could do is mock them and be like, yeah, man, I don't like the way these guys fight. Well, those action fighters, not everybody could fight the same cookie cutter way, right? When people say, it's hit and don't get hit, you need to fight like Mayweather. Well, if everybody fought like Mayweather, only a certain style of person and athlete would win all the time. Okay? Everyone has different attributes and different gifts. Some guys are born with punching power. Some are born with speed. So some are born with quick feet. Some are not. Okay, so some of them are born with a better chin than others. Everyone has different gifts, different attributes. Every fighter is different. For a lot of those guys that go out there, all right, and are willing to walk through the fire, that's their best bet. That's how they got to the dance. That's how they're on your fucking television. You want to tell them how to fight, but they're on TV and you're not, right? There's a lot of guys that fight the way you want them to fight that never make it. That's the reality. Not everyone could do what Floyd does at Floyd's level. What happened to Andre Berto when he tried to fight like Floyd? He got fucked up by Robert Guerrero. That's what happened. Floyd, remember when Broner was, oh man, he fights like Floyd. He's so good. What happened with Maidana? A lot of people were saying, oh, Maidana fights stupid. He doesn't fight smart. He doesn't. Let me tell you something, bro. Maidana got to where he got the way he's fighting. He got further than Broner, who fights the way you want guys to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole point of all this, okay, if you see that action fighter that you want to say, oh, that dude ain't shit. He don't fight smart. Go slap his girl's ass at the Walmart parking lot. See what happens. All right?
Yeah.
He's going to fuck you up. He ain't going to be dancing around and fighting smart, making sure you stay away from him. Okay? I'm just saying. And I don't want to hear, well, use the whole ring. Well, hey, babe, I was using the whole parking lot. Yeah, you were. You were running around the whole parking lot. Not wanting to fight, dude.
Shout out to Luis Puente, the super chat. Shout out to D-Style for the Walmart analogy. LOL. Appreciate you with the super chat. And you're telling me your girl wouldn't be impressed with the efficiency and ring generalship?
Well, parking lot generalship. You know what I mean?
Parking lot.
Hey, you see how I got between the sedan and the SUV? And I tucked right under it. He couldn't catch me at that moment. Like, got me out.
Look,
that shit's stupid, bro.
I'm going to be talking a lot about this fight. And I just want to introduce it to the channel because it got announced when I was out of town. And, you know, I dropped a video about how I feel about it in the separation between these two fighters. Let me say this for Spence and Crawford. I'm going to just say a few things. Not going to get too in depth with it. I'm glad that it's going to finally unlock this division, the welterweight division that we've been talking about. This division that's been locked for 5 years now. Never again shall we have a welterweight showdown between two guys who are top 4 or 5 pound for pound, marinated for 5-6 years. Never again. We have to say that as boxing fans. Never again should this be allowed. Never again should this be tolerated. Never again, because these are 2 straight big welterweight showdowns we've had to where we've had to wait a half a decade for. And that doesn't fly in any other sport. It's defenseless. That you can't defend it. You cannot defend it. So all these people that are hitting me up, oh, you need to thank Al Heyman. No, I don't. I don't have to thank anybody. First of all, this is what they're supposed to do. Do you realize that? All these people who are fans.
The mail showed up like a month later, and I got to thank the mailman. Hey, thank you.
All these people who are defenders and fans of advisors, and it's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to deliver you fights that are in demand. It's what they're supposed to do. All right. So if a dude shows up and delivers me a fight 5 years after I've been demanding it, you want me to get on my knees and thank the dude? Is that what you want? Because it sounds like you want me to get knee pads on, like you have them on. All right. I'm not thanking anybody, and I'm definitely not thanking him when he didn't single-handedly deliver it. From what I'm hearing, they needed some Irish drug money to guarantee Bud's side. So that's number one. You know, number two with this is I don't view this as a welterweight showdown between 2 special generational welterweights. And you could disagree with me on this. I don't know where you come out on this. We haven't discussed it. And people in the chat is, you know, when we had these welterweight showdowns of the 80s, the 90s, you know, let's just throw out some of them. Tito versus Oscar, into the 2000s, Floyd versus Manny. And then this one, I feel like these great welterweight showdowns of the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s into, 2014, Floyd and Manny, they were special generational fighters, these super showdowns. I don't view Errol Spence that way. I like Errol Spence. I think he's a great fighter. He is a great fighter. But I view him as a great welterweight in today's modern boxing. In previous eras, and it goes back to what Roberto Diaz was telling us when we talk to him is Terrence Crawford is one of the few fighters in modern boxing who can translate to generations prior, right? He could compete in any era. I don't feel that way about Errol. I think this is a generational talent in Bud Crawford versus a great modern welterweight in Errol Spence.
I
And I
mean,
think
well,
we're going to see
here's
that
the only thing I'll
separation
say.
go
Like
up.
the only thing I'll say to all that is this: if he's a great modern welterweight, that's all he could do right now. I mean, there's no way to quantify how he would do, to be honest, in the past, right? There's no way to quantify that. Look, we've had a lot of great welterweight fights, maybe not mega fights in terms of extravaganza, pay-per-view, like
That's what they're
spotlight on it.
building this, but that's what they're building this on.
What I'm trying to say is this, right? We have had a lot of great welterweight fights that were in quality-wise really good fights, especially on paper, right? Vernon Forrest, Shane Mosley was a great fight.
Yeah.
Like Mosley was considered like number 2 pound for pound behind only Roy Jones at the time. And Vernon Forrest was an undefeated, I don't remember he was undefeated, but I believe he was. Okay. And he had a great jab. He was the guy that nobody wanted to fight. And he goes in there, right? And just like beats Mosley. That's a fight. Margarito Cotto, underrated fight in terms of what it was at the time. Big fight. So there has been significant fights, but there is just something special about this fight, if I'm honest. Like it feels different.
Yeah.
Like it feels different, and I think it's going to be different. It's unfair to compare it to the 80s was just another animal. Like it was just like another, like they would do it to De La Hoya and Trinidad as well back then. Like I remember the late 90s, all my uncles, like, oh, these guys, they could never beat Ray Leonard. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know why boxing fans do this stuff, because it's like, well, it's not Ray Leonard's time right now. He's not fighting right now, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing I'll say in response to any of that is, this is Spence's time. This is Crawford's time, right? And they're going to fight. And the reality is, I'm picking Crawford. I'm confident Crawford's going to win. But I don't know it for a fact. I'll say that. It's not like a fact that he's going to win. I got to see it happen. And this is Spence's opportunity. Like if Spence goes out there and beats Crawford after everything we're saying about Crawford, that we can't take it back. I mean, you know what? Never mind. He's not a transcendent, athlete. He's not this.
You're right.
So like this is an opportunity for Spence to show what he's made of. Even in a loss, if he gives Crawford the fight of his life and proves he belongs, I mean, he will show that he's more than just a guy that's good because he's in a certain era. At the end of the day, he's good for his era. That's all he could do right now. He's done all he could do in terms of, well, not all he could do. He could have done more, but you know what I mean. The guys he's fought is who he's fought. And at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to win though, but.
Yeah, shout out to Luis Puente once again for the super chat. Appreciate this, bro. This fight is too late, in my opinion. Too many things have happened since 2019 to Spence, and Crawford is older, so there are too many excuses to make an outcome. Once again, and we talked about this last week, we don't agree that it's too late, but it is later than it should have been, right? It's not too late. We're all going to watch it. It's still we would say it's a special fight, right? And it's going to be a big fight. But too late, maybe too harsh. It is later than we wanted it, though, right? It's later than we wanted.
All I could say is this, right? Here's the reality, guys. They're the top 2 welterweights in the world. It's for undisputed.
Yeah.
So we can have our opinions, but at the end of the day, we are where we are, and it's never too late. Messi didn't win his World Cup in his prime. He did it later on. John Elway didn't win his first Super Bowl in his prime. He got destroyed in his prime. He won it later on, right? Lennox Lewis didn't have his mega fights till later on in his career. There's no like hard rules in boxing, like the way this is the way it should be. And I would have preferred it to have been sooner, because we could be on a trilogy by now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still, in my opinion, this is my opinion, right now, the best fight that can be made in boxing, besides Usyk Fury for undisputed heavyweight. That's it. It's the best fight that could be made in boxing, and it's also a fight that has to happen. And the reason so many people paid so much attention to it, because it is at welterweight, and welterweight has been, for better, for worse, whatever you want to say, the glamour division of boxing in the last like 15 years.
You can argue that the two of the three best pure fights in boxing that could be made, I would argue they're Spence Crawford, Inoue Fulton Jr., and Bivol Beterbiev. Two of them are happening within 5 days of each other.
100%.
I mean, that's amazing. And you know, a lot of times we talk about the negativity of modern boxing. They're delivering us those fights right now. And once again, I'm not gonna sit here and praise the power brokers because this is their job. It's what they're supposed to be doing.
No, we're boxing fans. We don't praise people for making fights.
Yeah.
Anybody out there praising the promoters and praising and then thanking Al Heyman like they're a fighter under his stable that just had a fight? Like, I'm not gonna thank anybody for shit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm a consumer. Give me the fucking fights I want. Yep. That's it. Like, I'm not here to thank people and, oh, thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, and, oh, please, can I please have another good fight if it's not too much to ask?
Right.
Okay, I'll wait for next year. Like, nah, fuck that shit, right? Y'all got to stop being soft out here, bro. Like, I'm just saying, like, just, you know what's funny? The same people that act hard when it comes to Canelo, like, all day, like, come on, Canelo, give me what I want. Like, you know, like those same people will be like, well, what do you guys thank Al Heyman for making fights happen? Huh? Like it's the whole thing's stupid, bro.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the topsy-turvy like world right now. But one point I want to make about, I want to put things in perspective. I don't just say things to say them. Heavyweight, you could argue, in the U.S., not worldwide, but in the U.S., is a glamour division of boxing. You could argue it. De La Hoya Trinidad was the first welterweight, a non-heavyweight fight. It was a non-heavyweight to do over 1 million buys. Okay, that fight was in, what was it, 99?
Yeah.
Since then, all right, it took us a while to get there again, but I mean, De La Hoya Pacquiao did over 1 million. That fight was a welterweight. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
The Pacquiao, what's his name? Marquez, 3 and 4 were technically welterweight fights. Those two did over 1 million.
Yeah.
Mayweather Cotto, Mayweather Ortiz, over 1 million. Pacquiao Cotto, over 1 million. Right? And I'm not even done. I think there were some other ones. So what I'm saying is, and then some of them were just a one-weight class above. The records, first, and the record of Pacquiao Mayweather, right? So I'm not saying pay-per-views mean everything, but what I'm saying is this is like the glamour division of boxing. And I do think this fight's going to, the closer we get to this fight, man, people are going to get intrigued. I'm telling you. They're going to feel it.
You're right. You're right. But I bring up special versus great because this is how I see these fighters going in. And I think there's going to be a clear separation that shows up. And it's not demeaning Errol Spence, because obviously if this is the biggest fight that can be made in boxing, there's an intrigue there. Yeah, Bud's been this killer, but this is the guy who could possibly end that. So there's that intrigue. He's great enough for that, but I need him to win this fight before I start to compare him to other special. Like, Bud passes that eye test for me already. And he needs this victory to solidify that. Don't get me wrong, but it's the eye test tells me that, and it doesn't so much tell me that with Errol Spence. And the last point I want to make is this: when it comes to this fight, I just wish the fight to end with the stoppage so no BS can happen after the fight. And that perfectly segues me into my third point that I was going to make about this tonight is the thing that I highly value about Bud Crawford is he offers boxing fans closure. He offers us finality. He offers us definitive finishes. Mm-hmm. If we go back and watch Lomachenko versus Haney, I've watched the fight 5 times because I love the fight. I love that fight. I think what people missed I don't want to say if they missed or they discounted, is Lomachenko submitting the body to Haney in order to he can land a more definitive punch, his straight left, and continue to do that, in which Lomachenko does it. He does the same thing Bud Crawford does. Bud Crawford will concede certain punches, certain advantages. He'll give them to fighters, give them up in order to lure them into fights. But here's the difference. Here's the difference is Bud Crawford is a finisher at 147. Lomachenko is not a finisher at 135. Same arrogance, D-Style. Same arrogance in that they'll concede certain advantages in order to lure a fighter into the type of fight they want, because at the end of the day, at their core, they are fighters. Bud Crawford especially, he's a fighter. He's a street fighter. He's going to tell you, no, y'all all sit down, sit down, sit down. Don't worry about the scorecards. We're about to end this thing. We're about to give finality here. You all showed up to see who's the better fighter. I'm going to give it to you. The thing that I love about Bud Crawford, especially at 147, is he's carried up that power from 135 to 140, and he's got 100% KO percentage at 147. He's giving us closure. He's giving us finality. And you can argue, oh, it's against Mean Machine, you know, it's against Sean Porter, and Sean Porter's a hell of a fighter. We know a lot about fighters by how their peers in their weight class view them, and Al Heyman was not, Steven Espinoza was not offering their fighters up for Bud Crawford to run through. It wasn't going to happen. And the fighters in that camp, when Bud Crawford's name was brought up, they don't know English all of a sudden, right? He's a killer there. And that's why I value him at 147 so much and value him as a fighter so much, is he's going to give me that definitive answer. And it was sort of murky early in his career. It's like he's getting caught by some shots early against Gamboa. What's going on with that? He's getting caught with some shots. And then you realize, oh, I see what's happening. This dude's a killer. He likes to fight. He wants to fight. He's luring them in for the kill. You know, it's like watching a scary movie and you see that girl start to walk upstairs and she's hearing all the noises upstairs and she still continues to do. You're like, no. That's how you feel with the opponent of Bud Crawford. They're walking up those dark stairs. They're still, you know, the girl still gets naked and goes in the shower, even though she's hearing creepy noises everywhere. And that's these fighters. You know, they hear the creepy noises everywhere, and then Bud just goes in for the kill. He goes in for the kill. And I love how he lures these guys in, because I hear people saying, Evan catching them with shots. Mean Machine's catching them with shots. Do we really think that Bud's such a limited fighter that he can't avoid those shots? It's the same thing I said about Lomachenko last week. Do we really think Lomachenko
but bro,
limited, but wait, do we think that Lomachenko is such a limited fighter that he can't make a simple adjustment of dropping his elbows 2 inches to avoid body punches from the outside? He's okay with it. But the difference is Lomachenko can't stop people at 135. He's got a 35% KO percentage. So when he's doing it, the arrogance is too much. Dude, you're not a stopper. You can't concede certain things and leave it in the hands of judges. What Bud's saying is, I'll do that because I'm not worried about the judges.
I just want to add to some of your points. Look, first of all, I've never watched a Terrence Crawford fight at welterweight and said, "Man, oh my God, Crawford's in trouble here. But Crawford better watch out." Like, ever, never. It's never happened. Mm-hmm. It's happened twice with Spence. Spence was in a fight of his life. He was in a life and death battle with Porter. Like some people scored it for Porter. In fact, a lot of the Errol Spence fans I see right now on the internet think, like, they forget that D-style boxing has the memory of a fucking elephant. And I remember some of you telling me that you scored that fight for Porter, or they had it close. They had it 6 rounds, and it was only the knockdown that separated the two. And I have receipts. Just FYI. You know what I mean? And it happened in the Ugas fight. Ugas hurt him.
Yeah.
If Ugas did that to Crawford, man, they would have shut up about it. Oh, you see what Crawford got caught by Ugas. I'm telling you, he's ripe for the picking. Like, nah, Crawford's never been in trouble like that. Yes, Crawford gets hit because he does have somewhat of an aggressive style, but if he chooses to, I seen him box like Postal. He didn't slug it out with Postal. He just boxed him. He easily outboxed him. 12 nothing. Like, he just boxed a dude. Used angles, you know what I mean? So this idea that he can't box if he needs to, believe me, if he needs to resort to that, he will. But another thing people need to understand, Alex, a lot of people felt like there was a good chance Chavez was going to stop Whitaker. Because Whitaker was getting hit in fights right before that. They said, wow, those guys are hitting. Like, this is what boxing fans do. Wow, they're hitting Whitaker. What do you think Chavez is going to do? Well, Whitaker respected Chavez. That was a difference. He was on the zone for every minute of that fight, for every second of every minute. You don't think Crawford's going to be on the zone for this fight? You think he's going to pay the same amount of attention or focus for Spence like he did for Rocha, like he did not Rocha, AVENGES, Mean Machine? No, he's going to be on point. He understands he's going to have to limit his risk. He understands that. Like, it's not that complicated. Like, he's going to limit his risk here. He's going to be smart with his risk taking, I should say. He's going to think a little more about it. He's going to be cerebral about it. Like, he's going to do it because if we know Spence is a better fighter than those guys, Crawford knows too. That's all I say to people. If you want to bet, and then I keep hearing stupid things like, oh, well, I don't know why boxing fans always do this to themselves. Like, well, Mean Machine caught him with a good shot, and it should have been a knockdown. What do you think Spence is going to do? Dude, Boone almost he knocked down and hurt Andre Ward. All these other better fighters than Boone couldn't drop him. So what does that even mean? Cunningham dropped and hurt Tyson Fury. Klitschko couldn't do it. Right? Why? Because his level of focus was just different, and preparation was different for those two fights. It wasn't the same Fury. You watch him. You watch him in the Vladimir Klitschko fight. He was in the zone. He wasn't in the zone when he was fighting Cunningham. You know what I mean? So I just think, bro, I honestly believe there's still another gear in Crawford that we haven't seen yet. That we're going to see in this fight.
I think so too.
And I agree with you. He's gonna win this fight, and I think it'll be decisive.
And we'll get more into breakdown as we'll be talking about this fight plenty, but the same can be said about Spence. I don't think Spence is going to walk into the type of shot that Ugas caught him with. I just think eventually what happens to guys when they fight Crawford is they hit Crawford with the shot, and he's the wrong guy to hit flush because his chin is such to where he's not worried about getting hit, and something in his circuit just turns on. And I don't think I'm reaching by saying this. Something in his circuit,
I mean, I kind of disagree.
And he turns into a different dude. He does not. I don't think he's interested in chess matches at all. He wants to fight. He wants fight, and this is why I value him highly at 147. Is he just wants to knock dudes out, and as he moves up, not only does the power translate, but it becomes more effective because as you move up, you're naturally fighting guys who are more stationary. And I think he's just having fun with these welterweights. Like and on top of that, top of that, he's not going to struggle to land certain shots against a southpaw because he can turn southpaw and then he can turn back conventional. He's one of the few fighters who can do that fluidly.
You could do it fluidly, like kind of like you're watching a fight, like, whoa, when did he go southpaw? It's like a weird thing he does. But here's the thing. I know how boxing fans use the term chess match. I know what they mean by that, right? To me, Bud if I were to compare him to a chess master, it would be Bobby Fischer. And I invite anybody, go look up Bobby Fischer chess matches. He was a very aggressive chess player. He always went for the win. He never wanted to tie. He never wanted to do any of those things. And he went through a, kind of like Crawford right now, he went through a streak, a winning streak, where he was checkmating chess master after chess master, right? You could play a very aggressive game of chess. So the only thing I would caution was saying he doesn't care about chess. He just wants to fight. He's not necessarily just blindly slugging it out either. Like, there is still technique. There is still a very smart fighter in there that knows what he's doing. And there's always going to be a method. And what I'm going to say is, go look up those Bobby Fischer chess matches. Crawford's very similar to him.
He
gets very creative. Bobby Fischer will give up a piece, and chess masters will be like, "Oh, you're going to give me that? Thank you." And then little did they know that set up the wave that was coming, right? And that's what Bud Crawford does. There's a reason. He's not just saying, "Oh, hit me because I love to fight." Rah rah. No. Like there's a purpose to what he's doing. Like something worse is coming your way, right? So now the only thing I would slightly disagree is, I mean, I do agree that a switch goes off when somebody hits him.
Yeah.
But he still stays smart. But he has to hit him eventually. Like, you need to hit him. And it's going to have to get tougher for Spence to get to that level and beat him. You know, like, he needs to get through it anyway. Right? So he's going to have to hit him. All I'm going to say is make it count. When you finally hit him, make it count. And if you're a Crawford, finish him. If you don't finish him, oh boy, like something's coming. I'm just saying.
So we're in agreement here. It sounds like he's a chess player, high-speed chess player, aggressive chess player who will concede certain pieces in order to get a definitive finish.
Yes,
and not only get a definitive finish, but he wants to get it to it as quick as possible. Speed up the process. And it goes back to the point is this is why I value him is I hate that, and it's natural and it needs to be discussed, but I hate that we're talking about scorecards more than the actual chess match that we saw between Lomachenko and Haney is, we want definitive finishes. We don't want, the three judges had this, but 85% of the boxing public had it another way. We want something that's going to end definitively. We want closure, and that's what he offers is closure is I want to give you, I'm not, like you said, I'm not interested in the drawn out process to where we go to the scorecards and we have a draw or something like that. And that's the difference between him and Lomachenko at 135 is Lomachenko, he's fine with going to scorecards. He has that same arrogance that Bud Crawford has, except he doesn't have the finishing tools to definitively end it at 135. And Bud Crawford will finish it if it's there. He'll finish it. He's not interested in going 12. If it's there, if the checkmate is there, as you say, he's not going to play with it. He's not going to play with his food. He's going for it.
It's another analogy, right? It's like the shark that smells blood. Like, that's the thing. Like, he drowns you in there, man. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, a fight that people overlook, honest to God, is the Jeff Horn fight. Jeff Horn was just coming off a win over Manny Pacquiao, bro.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says, right? Even if you think Pacquiao won. I had Pacquiao winning, and I had it 7-5 for Pacquiao, right? But it was close. Like, it could have gone either way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Little Penny would probably disagree and say Pacquiao was robbed, but it's okay. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is,
I thought Pacquiao won, but yeah.
But was it close?
Yeah, it was close.
It was close, right?
Yeah.
What did Pacquiao do to Thurman? Like 2 years later.
Yeah, beat him.
You know what I mean? What did Pacquiao do to freaking before that fight? He beat, Adrian Broner. You know what I mean? But wins over those guys somehow are a bigger deal. Crawford went in there, and this was a big welterweight, and mauled him.
Yeah.
Controlled him and mauled him. And people just, but that was Jeff Horn. And they saw what Tim Tszyu did to Jeff Horn, and it kind of reinforced it, right? I don't care what this Tim Zhu guy did to him. But you look at Tim Zhu now, though, and it's like, wow, maybe we kind of missed the boat there. You know what I mean? Maybe we should have known, right? So what I'm saying is Crawford, he's a very intelligent, aggressive fighter. Yeah. That's what he is, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, that high guard of Spence is going to work against him in this fight. Look, I'm just telling you right now, I don't think it's going to work. I think, and I know we're going to have a lot of time. I'll make it really quick. I think Crawford's going to be doing a lot of just touching the guard to free Spence up here, and it's going to go to the body. I know people think Spence is the one that's going to go to the body. Spence needs a stationary target to go to the body. Crawford doesn't. Like, Crawford has faster feet than Spence, bro. Like period. And he has better angles than Spence. And I think he's going to use those angles, and he's going to get that better body positioning to land those body shots. And he's going to use that high guard against them. Like, I'm telling you right now. And if I'm Bud Crawford, I don't think he would do it. But, man, I would try to get Virgil as a sparring partner. But it won't happen.
Any final thoughts on this show, just to wrap it up?
No, man. Congratulations to Lee Wood. Congratulations to the UK. They finally look at this dude. The UK finally gets a win over Mexico. He's wearing a sombrero and shit. Thinks he's the king of Mexico all of a sudden because he won one fight. Okay, it's a 1 to like 50 now or some shit in the last year, right? the UK finally got a W. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
He ended the streak.
Lara was in a row, and then he wasn't. So congratulations to Lee Wood, and I don't want it, but we'll probably get a trilogy at some point. So it is what it is.
Congrats to Lee Wood. Hopefully we get Wood versus Lopez unifications. Hopefully we get Lara versus Warrington losers bracket, because all that's good. Those are all good fights. And, just to wrap it up for me, what I do like is a lot of these fighters we saw over the weekend. And notice we didn't talk about the O'Kali fight because he's not worth talking about. And I'm glad he lost.
He lost, yeah.
Yeah, but these fighters are active. And that's one thing I value about all those fighters is Conlan's been active. Win or lose, he's been active. Lee Wood's been active. They just fought 3 months ago. Lara active and Rocha active. I value that these fighters that in this inactive boxing world, we're seeing activity. So I appreciate those fighters for at least giving me that and giving me some entertaining fights. So I'm very much appreciative. And we'll be back. HCP is Tuesday night, same time. We're at a different time today due to the holiday tomorrow. So thanks for catching us at a new time tonight. Appreciate everybody who rolled through. And for most of you who will be watching this in the archive, appreciate you as well. And make sure you're leaving your comments in the comment section. We are out. God bless. Peace.